When I was a kid, I had a really unusual hobby. I don't know what made me do this. I don't know what incited me to do it, but I used to go to the library and listen to speeches. The library that was near my house, so there was a library between my house and my school, and I would often stop at this library, and it's actually a famous library, the Franklin Public Library. It is recorded as the first public library in the United States, in the nation, and the library was started because Benjamin Franklin lived in Franklin, Massachusetts, and the town of Franklin asked him to donate a bell. You know, back in the 1700s, like a bell was a big deal, and he said, no, education was more valuable than sound, and he donated 20 books. And these 20 books still exist in the Franklin Public Library, and these 20 books were the start of the library. So anyway, I would stop at the library, and they had recordings of famous speeches. Winston Churchill speeches, John F. Kennedy speeches, and Martin Luther King speeches, and I mean, to just have like this library of speeches. And this is before, like, you know, you could log on and look stuff up on the internet. Like, there was no internet back in 1980, whatever. So I used to sit, and I was just so fascinated by people delivering speeches as a young man. And I mean, like, young boy, like 10, 11, 12 years old. I would stop at the library and listen to these speeches. And one of the people that I fell in love with through listening to these speeches was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, obviously, I knew who Martin Luther King Jr. was, and I probably have listened to his I Have a Dream speech 10 million times. And I have to imagine that has influenced the way that I view people and the way that I view my work and the way that I view my life. Like, I believe everyone has a dream. I believe everyone can achieve something. And I grew up as a child kind of admiring Martin Luther King Jr. and believing that one man can make a difference in their life, in their community, in their families, because I watched the impact Martin Luther King Jr. had on the entire world. And it's awe-inspiring to me, and it still is to this very day. So, like, I was teaching this past weekend, and I was trying to explain to people that there's only two ingredients necessary for change: a dream and resources. And the good news is every single person walking around on the planet has both. And we have to look to heroes like Martin Luther King Jr. as an example of what happens when you activate your dreams and you activate your resources and you create a better world for the people around you. And I'm so grateful to the work of Martin Luther King Jr. And the impact that he has had on this world. I don't know if I would be who and where I am today if he didn't open as many doors as he did to Black people, and if he didn't inspire that little 12-year-old, 10-year-old Elliot walking into the Franklin Public Library. So on today, the day that we acknowledge his birthday as a national holiday, I thought it was important to take a moment and recognize the impact and inspiration and influence of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And dare I would say, if Martin Luther King Jr. was alive today and decided to become a health professional, I bet you he would be a solution-focused brief therapist.